work in HR, perhaps as an HR manager or a human resource professional, are you concerned that your advice is not listened to as much as it deserves? Are you concerned that you're not part of the top table decision making? Would you like to be at the centre of top management attention? I think these are really important issues because in my experience, HR doesn't get enough top management attention and therefore its impact is reduced. And this shouldn't be, because I think HR systems add most of the value to an organisation. So the question is, the big issue is, how can HR grab more of top management attention? And this is what I'm trying to address in this short video. So let's just think about it. I believe HR has control over the main assets in the organisation. If you go back to 1978, which incidentally is when most top managers were probably going through business school and trained, then fixed assets actually did make up most of the value of an organisation, up to 98%. Was in land and buildings and plant and equipment and stuff like that. Stuff that ends up in the balance sheet. So of course they were trained to take notice of balance sheets and things that they could see and touch. But today, fixed assets only account for maybe only 5 to 10% of the value of an organisation. And most of the value in an organisation these days is around intangible assets. Things like knowledge, how much knowledge is in the organisation, the relationships we have with people, the emotional assets, the culture and the way people relate to each other and can cooperate and work together, and time assets, how quickly we can get people and things happening, how processes can go through the organisation more quickly. So HR, these are the things that HR has control over. And this is why I, as a trained accountant, am concerned that accounting has probably got far more attention than it deserves, and HR has got much less attention than it deserves. I think part of the issue is that HR needs a different perspective. When you look at this little quadrant here, you can see that the top management are strategically focused on the inside things, and the board are strategically focused more on external environment. But HR seems to put itself into the bottom left-hand box of being operational and internally focused. And so in order for them to be taken more notice of, they need to think more strategically, and they probably also need to think outside the organisation more. Every business has three parts. There's an innovation coming up with the ideas, the operation making it happen, and then there's customer service about how we get this out to the customer. And all organisations need to be good at all three of those businesses. They need to be at least as good as their competitor. But no organisation can be world class in all three. It's like going to the Olympics. You have to choose the sport you want to be. You can't actually probably be successful at high jumping and swimming because the body shape and the exercise regimes, the stuff you eat, just about everything about is different according to the choice you make about your sport. And it's not strategic to not choose. You must choose. So the three choices really are that you can decide to be a product leader, like Apple Computer or Peter Jackson's studio, Wingnut Studios. These are organisations that put a lot of attention into the innovation side. It's about creative, so they need to be highly innovative and creative, and people are coming up with ideas, and we have almost no rules, and people are encouraged to break rules and to take time off to think for themselves and so on. Then you have the almost opposite, which is operational excellence. And these are people like McDonald's in the warehouse, people who follow the rules and have procedures, and everybody works like a well-oiled army, and everyone knows their place and they get on with it, and it's process. And then you have customer service or customer intimate organisations. And I think Harley Davidson really know their hog customers. And IBM back in the 1960s really knew computers. And Booz Allen, when I worked in the Bank of New Zealand, they knew banking probably better than we knew banking. And so they know the customer probably better than the customer knows themselves. The three types of organisation. And we need to understand what our organisation is, what the word we use is value proposition, what our value proposition is. Because if you look at a customer intimate organisation, it has a chart a bit like this, a kite-shaped thing, which is pointing down towards down towards the red C quadrant. Has a lot of team structure and people are really, really important, and it's so the sort of culture that HR needs to build depends on the value proposition that the company has taken in. And you can see from this, if it was a product leader, then it would need to be much more entrepreneurial, much more yellow. So there are really three major relationships in any organization. There's brand, there's culture, and there's customer service. And you can see how these are related in this little chart here. That the way the customer sees the staff, and the staff see the customer is actually customer delivery. The way the staff see the organisation and the organisation see the staff, that's what we call culture. And the way the customer sees the organisation and the organisation sees the customer, that's the brand. And these four things need to be really closely linked together. You can't have the brand that sort of points out this way with its kite and there's customer service that goes that way. Lots of organisations do this, and lots of HR people randomly put in processes that are probably better suited for operational excellence than they are for innovation, even though the organisation trying to like hell to be innovative. So this chart here is very detailed, and I don't expect you to follow it, but you can see that in a customer intimate organisation, that the culture chart, the kite, shape of the kite, and is the same as the shape of the kite in customer service, is the same as the kite in brand, is the same as the kite in the leadership. And in operational excellence, the shape of the kite is similar also in all four things, and different again when it comes to product leaders. So HR people who are putting in processes and so on, and trying to develop cultures, need to understand this stuff, otherwise they're going to actually probably do more harm than they're going to do good. I guess another way of saying this is that really it's the unconscious in an organisation that matters. It's the heart stuff, the emotions, the feeling, the trust and the security that really matters. It's the things that you guys are great at and you guys have control over. But the logic and the costs, the head stuff, the conscious stuff, it probably only accounts for a small amount, but it's the bit that sits above like that iceberg. You know, your stuff is sort of somehow down below the surface, and you've got to bring it to the top if you're going to be listened to. So my name's Bruce Holland. I am the workplace wizard. I'm an expert in leadership development and organisational strategy. But I've found that really it's HR things that matter. And so I always talk about liberating the human spirit at work. And that is a very HR concept. If you can make sure that happens and play the game of learning the language, thinking about trying to step into that more strategic sort of quadrant, and think about the processes you're putting in place, then you'll be much, much more successful and you'll be much more listened to by the top management.